and welcome to another episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Hamilton, delighted to have your company with me for a discussion today on the concept of getting out of our own way. Now, what do I mean by that? In a nutshell, I mean learning to identify the difference between not wanting to undertake a challenge because of self-doubt, fear, and insecurity versus correctly identifying the fact that we don't have the skill set required to undertake the challenge successfully. And there's a very, very big difference between those two scenarios. And the inability to tell the difference and take the appropriate course of action, I believe, can really affect the trajectory of our careers and our personal lives. It's quite important. So as we always do, to help set the scene, let's delve back into some recent history. The individual at the center of that example today is going to be Simone Biles, the US gymnast, and she's going to help us set the scene for this discussion quite nicely. So without further ado, let's go. Simone Biles' journey to greatness is one marked not only by unparalleled athleticism, but by an incredible battle with self-doubt, mental health struggles, and a fierce determination to rise above them all. From the moment she stepped onto the gymnastics floor, Simone was a force of nature. She quickly became known for her groundbreaking skills and extraordinary precision, dominating the sport like no one before her. By 2016 at the Rio Olympics, she had already solidified her status as one of the greatest gymnasts in history, winning 4 gold medals and 1 bronze. But behind her dazzling performance, Simone was fighting an internal battle that few could see. Despite her immense success, Simone was no stranger to moments of self-doubt, and like many elite athletes, the pressure to perform at the highest level was constant. And Simone felt it acutely. She was the face of US gymnastics, carrying the weight of a nation's expectations on her shoulders. But at times it felt suffocating. She struggled with the pressure to be perfect in every routine, always pushing herself to break new boundaries. But the more she succeeded, the more the stakes grew, and the harder it became to maintain the mental toughness that was expected of her. In 2021, the pressure came to a head at the Tokyo Olympics. Simone entered the Games as an overwhelming favourite to win multiple gold medals, but just days into competition, something was off. During her first event, the team competition, she suddenly experienced what gymnasts refer to as the twisties, a terrifying sensation where the body becomes disoriented in the air, making it almost impossible to land safely. She realised that despite her years of training and her incredible accomplishments, her mind and body weren't in sync. In a moment of raw vulnerability, Simone made a decision that shocked the world. She pulled out of several events to prioritise her mental health. It was an incredibly difficult choice to make, as she knew the expectations placed on her, but she also understood that without her mental well-being, she couldn't perform safely or at her best. Simone's decision sparked a wave of support, but also criticism. People who had long viewed her as invincible now saw her as human, and her choice to step back was a reminder that even the greatest athletes are not immune to struggles with mental health. Yet Simone's decision was ultimately a courageous one. She showed the world that mental health is just as important as physical health, and sometimes stepping away is the bravest thing that an athlete can do. Despite her withdrawal from many events, Simone's story didn't end in Tokyo. She returned to the competition, winning a bronze medal on the balance beam and proving that resilience doesn't always mean pushing through. It can mean knowing when to step back, heal, and come back stronger. Simone Biles' journey has been a powerful reminder that even the greatest champions face moments of doubt, fear, and mental struggle. But what makes her truly remarkable is not just her incredible talent and achievements, but the strength she's shown in overcoming those challenges in a sport where perfection is expected. Simone proved that embracing vulnerability, prioritising mental health, and staying true to oneself are what truly defines greatness. At the 2024 Paris Olympics, Simone Biles made her return to the Games after a break, and she once again showcased her incredible skill set. She competed in several events and earned another gold medal on the balance beam, adding to her already legendary career. Biles' performance was a symbol of not only her athletic mastery, but also of her resilience and ability to overcome the challenges life threw her way. And that's a very interesting example, isn't it? Because for those of you who remember her performance at the most recent Olympic Games, it really was an incredible one. She seemed to be back to her best. I don't have the exact stats, but I don't think that was the only gold medal that she won. But gold medals aside, the point is she returned to compete in the event where she had what was known as the twisties at the Tokyo Olympic Games. And she faced that fear and ultimately overcame it. So it's a good example of how, even at the elite level, someone has had to identify when fear and self-doubt is the thing holding them back versus objective reality, i.e. I have concerns, doubts and anxieties that I can perform at this level again because of what happened last time. But in fact, she pushed through, persevered, and it turns out that she can still perform at a very high level. And that really is the, the foundation for the discussion that we're going to have today. And my initial thoughts on this are, we need to ask ourselves the question when we're facing an upcoming challenge as a leader or as someone who is imminently about to step into a leadership role. Maybe we've been tapped on the shoulder and we have all this doubt at our ability to handle the situation. So we need to ask ourselves, how much of the concern that we have about our ability to manage an upcoming challenge, whatever it might be, is actually based on fact? And how much of it is actual reasonable doubt versus just fearful inner monologue? And if you were giving advice to a third party, if you were giving advice to yourself, let's say, as a third party person, how would that differ from what you're telling yourself currently? And I think you'll find that it would differ quite substantially. Because the situation changes, doesn't it? As soon as you remove the self aspect, as soon as you take yourself out of the equation and adopt that third person perspective, you don't see the fear. You don't see the anxiety or the doubt. Instead, you see what is presented externally. You see the past results that indicate future performance. You look at the track record. You base your assessment on your interaction with that person. And all that seems important is the objective reality of your experience with that person. And it's important to be able to transition that to an area of self-assessment. So in other words, to step back, adopt that third-party perspective and analyse yourself objectively. Take the doubt out of it, take the fearfulness out of it, take the anxiety out of it, and analyse your skill set from a third-party perspective. Very important. Now, if other people, including ourselves, if we adopt that third-party perspective, would actually say, well, no, you can do this, you can meet this challenge, then objective reality would suggest that in fact we can. And that leaves the major hurdles that need to be overcome, those internal ones. The doubt, the insecurity, the anxiety. But it's scary, isn't it? Because we don't always have that trust in ourselves like others do. Because the reality is that fear and anxiety feel really real. And if they're intense enough, they can feel really horrible. You know, there's a cost, isn't there? There's a cost to voluntarily doing something that intimidates us. And the cost usually, especially in the lead up to that challenge, is that internal turmoil, that mental stress. It can feel very scary. But we need to ask ourselves, what is the cost of not doing it? Yes, there's a cost to accepting a challenge, which is that internal turmoil, that fear, that feeling in your stomach, which tells you shouldn't be doing this. And all the other wonderful forms that anxiety can take in a physical sense. Yes, that is a cost. But do we ask ourselves enough what the cost is of not undertaking the challenge? And to expand on that, do we ask ourselves if we're willing to pay that price once we identify what it is? What is the price of not undertaking a challenge? Because we need to remember there is always a cost. Always. There's a cost to undertaking a challenge, but there's also a cost to playing it safe and never exiting our comfort zone. And it's important to make a well-informed decision and understand what the cost of both courses of action might be. And I always think to myself, how many people has there been in a world where there's 7 billion people? How many people can sing like Mick Jagger or Freddie Mercury, but will never know because they were too afraid to try? You would have to think that in a talent pool of 7 billion people, there are more than just one Freddie Mercury or Mick Jagger. You would have to think that there are a few other people in that talent pool that could actually perform just as well as those two guys. But because perhaps they were too frightened to take to the stage, they will never live that life. They will never be discovered. And you could say that's a tragedy. Because how different would their lives have been, in that example, if they adopted the ability to overcome a challenge versus living with a fear-based mindset? So as leaders, we need to identify what is it that's really holding us back. Is it objective reality? Is it an accurate assessment? Let's say you've got to, let's use a really common example. Someone at work has tapped you on the shoulder and said, we want you to step in and lead this team. And you've never led a team before. And you are just racked with fear and doubt and anxiety as to your ability to do that role. And so you don't. You say, no, it's not for me. But what if you could do the job really well? How different would your life look 20 years from now if you had said yes? How long would that fear and doubt and anxiety have lasted in reality? Would it have been a few days? Would it have been a week? Would it have been all gone in a month? Clearing the way for a successful career in leadership that you never thought you'd have. Now, as a side note, I think it's actually healthy to have a little bit of fear, a little bit of doubt when it comes to leading people, because to me it shows that you're in it for the right reasons if you do say yes. You don't crave power, you don't crave influence. You understand the gravity of the situation and take it seriously. I think it's a good indicator that perhaps you should accept the challenge. So what's really holding us back? Is it reality or is it fear? And in closing, there is a little, what I call a success trifecta that I think about from time to time. I think it holds true. And I think that in order to be infinitely successful, in order to be great, you've got to have three things come together. And without one of these three factors, success can be really elusive. And those factors are ability combined with confidence, combined with opportunity. And if you have those three things come together, I think you can be infinitely successful. But if you're missing any one of those ingredients, your path is made all the more difficult. Let's say you have confidence and you have opportunity, but you don't have the ability. Well, the confidence and the opportunity is useless, isn't it? Because you don't have the ability to successfully undertake the challenge or the role. Let's say you have the ability and you've got plenty of confidence, but you've just never been presented with the opportunity. Same result. Or finally, and in keeping with the topic we're discussing today, let's say you've got the ability, you've got it in spades, everybody knows you've got the ability, and you've got the opportunity. Someone's saying, hey, you're perfect for this. I want you to have a go at it. I want you to step into this role. You've got the ability, you've got the opportunity, but you don't have the confidence. And so you never pull the trigger. And lo and behold, you're in exactly the same situation as you were if you were missing either of the other two. You can have all the ability in the world. You can have all the opportunity in the world. But if you don't have the confidence, if you don't have the confidence to say yes and accept that challenge, you will be relegated to a life of limited success. So don't underestimate the importance of this topic as an emerging leader, as someone just navigating life's challenges. Cultivate the confidence, the quiet confidence, the ability to successfully tell the difference between your self-doubt, anxiety, and fear versus objective reality. When should you attempt a challenge? And when should you not attempt a challenge? Because it is, in fact, out of your depth. Very important to tell the difference. Guys, we'll leave it there. In closing, I'd like to direct your attention towards the show notes, as I always do. There is a link there. It says send us a text. Many people have. It's great to see that interaction gaining momentum. So if you would like to join us, send us a text using that link. Let me know perhaps about a topic that you would like to have discussed. Maybe you'd like to share with me a particular challenge that you're dealing with in your workplace or in your life that is leadership related. And if it fits the programming of the show, maybe it can be factored into another episode and your question can be addressed that way. Likewise, there's also a link to the Instagram page in the show notes and the LinkedIn community of practice. Jump on board both of those. Become a member of the Exceptional Leadership Community of Practice on LinkedIn. And of course, follow the show on Instagram to consume other content like Reels, so on and so forth. And finally, if you are getting value from this show, would you be kind enough to leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you do consume the show on? That'd be much appreciated. And of course, hit that subscribe button as well. That really does help a small podcast like this to gain momentum. So that would be much appreciated. And finally, spread the word. Guys, leadership affects all of us, even if we are not in a leadership position. Of course, this show is very useful for those of us who are leaders and who are perhaps thinking about an upcoming leadership opportunity, perhaps if we've never done it before. But it's also useful for those who are not in leadership positions, because ultimately we will be led by someone. So if you can think of someone who would benefit from listening to this show, do us a favor and spread the word. Tell a friend. Share this podcast within your workplace if you think that it might be of use and benefit to some. That would be really appreciated. Word of mouth is in fact a very, very important part of marketing, and making sure that we together lift up the standard of leadership as globally as we can. It is in everybody's interest. So if you'd be kind enough to tell a friend about the show and share it around, that would be much appreciated. But until next time, with all that said, I'll see you next time.